Welcome to another episode of Powerdriven. This episode is being brought to you by Desmond, Curtis, and Spencer. We had a special request on doing the full process of how to powder coat an entire project.
That's right. Today we're going to be working with the 2004 Lexus IS 300. That's the 2JZ GE intake, which is the same motor that's used in the non-turbo 90 Supras. The products we use are Eastwood powders by the pound for our high temp products, prismatic powders, Eastwood dual voltage powder system, and a used oven.
So as you can see, we've got our intake off of our Lexus, and we've got this part done already. This is where your throttle body is going to bolt up to, and this is a 3-piece intake. This is going to set on here just like that. A little better than that. It's going to set like this, and this is your upper portion, this is your lower. It's going to bolt just like this, and this is going to be to the head. Head is actually getting the machine work done right now. Your fuel injection, or here's your fuel rails, right in the back right now, and they're going to bolt right there. We're going to do step by step of this. Right now, we're going to sandblast and clean the lower portion of the intake, and then we're going to bake it about 400 degrees for 30 minutes, and that's going to get all the oil residue out of the pores of the metal. And then we're gonna spray it all off really good with the degreaser, and then after that we're gonna do our powder coat base, and we're gonna spray it, and then we're gonna bake it, and then we're gonna see how it turns out from there.
Okay. What color are we gonna powder coat though?
That's gonna be kind of a vibrant blue, just like this one.
So it's gonna match the where the throttle body goes on that part of the intake. Awesome. What's that look like inside?
Inside we actually.
So this looks like it was pretty caked, pretty nasty in there, and we've got to get in there and make sure we kind of clean all of that out of there really well. What did the second stage? It looked like that as well, but let's take a look at that now.
Now this is after we've cleaned it. We haven't baked this one yet, so there is still some residual oil and residue on the inside.
We got all the gook out of that, so should line up pretty good when we get done. That particular piece we're gonna leave in the shiny finish. Yeah, in the aluminum finish. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll get sandblasting this, and we're probably gonna show how easy it is to powder coat by having Spencer actually do the powder coat himself. He's 16. We're gonna do this step by step, so you can see how simple it is to do this yourself, and we're going to give you all of the numbers, all of the temperatures, and the times. Okay, as you can see, this is part of the intake manifold that bolts directly to the head, and it's pretty scuzzy. Now I've cleaned a little bit of it over here, but there's still a lot of dirt. Now I already polished the inside of the guides using a drill with a wire brush, but I'm trying to get the outside of it nice and clean, and then we'll sandblast a little bit of it. But I usually use just a 5-gallon bucket with about a gallon of diesel, and that seems to get it clean with a relatively inexpensive cost. So I'm going to work on that and use my mighty toothbrush here to help get this looking pretty, and we'll get another view of this later. And as Curtis was saying, when we turn the oven on, we're going to put it about 400 to 425, and then we're going to bake this piece to get the residual oils burned out of the pores so that we can powder coat it and we'll get good adhesion. Now that we're done sandblasting and cleaning the parts and making sure they're prepped and degreased, what do we got to do next before we powder coat, Curtis?
Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take these parts that we've treated, like this one, this is the water neck, and we're going to put it in the oven about 400 degrees. So we're going to let it bake out so that the final finish doesn't have any imperfections.
That's going to allow us to have a really professional looking product when we're done. So let's go see how it works.
So here's a quick look at our lower intake before the pre-bake. As you can see, our parts are pre-baking right now.
We placed our intake in the oven so that it can pre-bake.
when we pull them out, we have to let them cool. Isn't that right?
If you don't allow them to cool, once you apply the powder coat, if they're still warm, it'll adhere immediately and you'll have a bad finish on it, which is not what you want, especially when powder coating for customers.
Good. You know, one thing you got to remember is you want to powder coat only parts that you're not worried about. Any critical part that could have metal fatigue or a problem with heat temperature changes, you want to stay away from that. Maybe just use some nice paint instead. But any of the other types of really cool items to dress up your vehicle, you can go ahead and powder coat.
Now that our components have cooled down, what we're going to do is tell you a little bit about each of the equipment and why we use it the way we do. And here to help me is Spencer.
Yes. For this powder coating, we are going to use the equipment by Eastwood powder coating, and we'll just go into a little more depth about, with a lot of variety that we can use.
So we've got, and this is our color chart. We can make more colors or less colors. We can change each one. You can add glossifiers. You can have some sparkle, kind of like a little metal flake or a copper tone. Then we've got chromes, and you can have different shades, different shininess, finish of each one. We even have some exhaust colors too for headers or manifolds, because when you paint those, as soon as you heat them up, even with high temp paint, it's just going to flake off. Whereas the powder coating with the high temp powder coat, it's going to stick and it's going to last and give you that quality finish that you're going to want for your show car. So for this particular project, we're going to use Eastwood's Mirror Blue. Before we do that though, we're gonna take it and sift it, and we have to make sure that there's no clumps in there. That's also going to give you a very uneven finish, which is not what you want. So in order to sift it and get the consistency that we want out of the powders, what we're going to do is we're just going to shake them up a little bit and make sure that you'll be able to feel the clumps hitting back and forth. And just periodically check each one, or each time. And keep going until you get the right consistency.
And the powder coating gun that we're going to be using for this is the dual voltage Eastwood powder coating system. And we'll go into more depth about that as we use it.
And then next what we're going to do is we're going to take a degreaser. This is Eastwood's pre-painting prep. And we're going to spray down all of our parts again, just to make sure we have a really nice clean finish for when the powder coat is applied.
Okay, right now we're hanging this in the air because we're going to powder coat it this way so that we can get all the way around it and everywhere we need to get. Now some of these, like this little hole right here, is threaded. We don't want powder coat getting into the thread. We don't want powder coat getting into this attachment for the hose either. These are quite large holes, so these don't matter so much and they're not as critical. And then this side here, we're going to put duct tape across this so the powder coat doesn't get here. But when you hang it, it's a little easier to get to and to get everything done evenly. This is that pre-prep cleaner that dissolves any residual grease that still might be on it. We're going to go ahead and spray it a little bit with that, just to prep it again. And it's got to dry. So we're going to wipe that down, and then we'll do that with the intake as well. We had a lid inside the rag there, but that way we can just wipe off the rest of this here and let it dry out. And we'll put some little plugs and some tape into the holes that I was showing you, and it'll make a little bit more sense before we go ahead and put it in the powder coat oven. And we can actually hang it in the oven with the wire, or in this case, because this has a flat surface and it'll be clean, we can lay it on the rack like this and it'll work and bake just as well like that. So we'll see what we decide when we get to that point. Okay, here's the intake piece hanging from the wire. We're trying to make sure that everything's dry. We sprayed it down a little bit again with some non-chlorinated carburetor cleaner to try to make sure we got all the residue off. Got to check it because we had one screw here sneak up on us that we forgot, so we got to pull that out. All of these holes that we don't want powder coated, we got to put little plugs in them, including the injector holes, so that we don't have the tolerances so that the injectors don't fit. And we'll put tape over all these studs here, 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 and here. Then we'll pull the tape off just before we put it in the oven so that it doesn't get gooey and stuff like that. The little plugs that we plug in all of the holes that we're going to use, they can actually, they're high temperature heat plugs, so they can handle 400 or 500 degrees, no problem. So we'll go ahead and we'll finish cleaning this up with the rest of the degreaser, put all the plugs in, get another shot of that just before we lay the powder coat down. Okay, we're ready to powder coat. We've put all the stuff and the blocks in there and the tape so we can get it, so we can make sure we don't get it where we don't want it. Today Spencer is going to do the powder coating. He's 16. You might have seen him on how to turbocharge the MR2 video. If you haven't, go ahead and watch it. But this will show you how easy it is. We're going to go ahead and put the powder in the container and we'll start shooting. One of the most important things is what, Spencer?
Person who has the gun has the button.
That's right. That way you don't get shocked, right? Go ahead and pull the trigger and get close to it so you can see. You got to keep your distance so that it doesn't arc. So go ahead and arc it just so it can see it. Okay. So you want to keep it about 1/2 inch to 1 inch further away than where the arc starts to happen, where you get that, so that it coats evenly but you don't get an arc in it. So I'm going to help aid him, so go ahead and start.
As you can see, the grounding wire is attached to the manifold, which is connected to the powder coating system. This allows the opposite charged powder to adhere to the workpiece. Air pressure is regulated between 15 and 20 psi.
Okay, here it is put into the oven. We put it on the shiny side that we didn't coat, and that side isn't going to get lines in it on the rack. We put the rack band going down so we can slide it all the way out. You can see the heating element heating up right now. It'll start to melt. When it starts to melt, we'll time it for 20 minutes after it starts at 400 degrees. Okay, so the cleanup on this basically is just blowing it off. Alright, looks like we're getting shiny in there. We'll open that up. Very, very nice. Now we're going to time it for 20 minutes. Our clock here says 11:05, so we'll pull it out at 11:25 and then we'll be good to go. But here we go. We're ready to take these out. They're looking pretty nice. You can see some of the fumes out. Once you start to powder coat in one of these ovens, you never want to cook regular stuff in it anymore. So no pizza in the garage. We're going to take these out, and you can probably see a couple little spots. What we'll do is we'll take a wire brush and we'll polish those up to get a little bit of the powder coat off of the surface that we made up with the head there that you can see, so that it turns out a little bit better. A little bit of cleanup work will do just fine. So I'll pull these out and let them cool, and we'll see how they made up. Okay, here's another shot after we pulled it out of the oven. It's cooling off on the rack on the garage floor, and it's going to look pretty good. It's plenty easy to do. What do you think about that?
This project turned out really nice, and it's a very simple process to do as long as all the steps are done correctly, from the cleaning all the way up to the powder coat spraying itself. So just keep in mind, and we'll give you some tips at the end to make it run a little bit smoother. But anybody can do this, young or old, experienced or not. It's really easy, and you can have a lot of fun doing it.
Even on Christmas Eve.
Even on Christmas Eve.
That's right, it is Christmas Eve. We did this whole project day before Christmas, and we've had a good time doing it. And wish all of you a good Christmas. And we'll finish putting this together after it cools down to show you how the whole unit looks before it's installed. Okay, actually this is a finished shot of this. It's not bolted together, but we fitted it together. Shows the harmonic balancer and one of the cam pulleys as well that we painted. These are, of course, powder coated. And you can look at another video that we're going to do about rebuilding this Lexus engine and see it all put together on top of the car when we get the head back. But for now, this will conclude our video on how to do powder coating. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and share.